Hi, my name is Ryan, hiring guru with today's hiring tip. Today we're going to talk about maybe some bad news that simply put, the party's over. You have to start being nice to job seekers. So I'm going to describe exactly what this means and how it works if you stick around, but make sure you stick around to the end. I've got a really cool tool that talks about how to maximize your results from job boards. It will dramatically increase the number of applicants you get for your jobs without spending a single penny. All right, so lately I've been binge watching this show about a rap group from back in the 90s, and one of the things that stuck out to me was that it showed them having pagers. I don't know if you're old enough to remember pagers, but all you would get is somebody's phone number, maybe like 911, and you'd have to use a payphone to make a call, right? Yes, I'm that old to remember that. And our lives were improved by that. Somebody could get a hold of us when we weren't near a real phone or near a landline. It was awesome right up until the point that we got car phones and cell phones. Suddenly, we didn't just get notified that somebody wanted to talk to us, we could talk back to them. Pagers became just blasé. Nobody wanted them anymore. They simply no longer provided the value that we wanted. I remember the progression from Motorola and Nokia flip phones and brick phones, like we used to call them, into the world of like Palms and Blackberries, where we had keyboards we could type on and we could send emails, but they were black and white, and the engagement or entertainment value of them was really, really low. And then along comes the iPhone and really kind of spoils the party. Just think about it. Before the iPhone, the leaders in the cell phone industry, Nokia and Motorola and BlackBerry, were dominant players in those areas, and yet the iPhone came along and completely displaced them. Most of these providers either don't exist or are shells of what they once were, and most of that was because they were unable to evolve or unwilling to evolve when the iPhone came along and changed the world. Specifically, what it changed was it changed consumers' preference and demands. Suddenly, they were no longer okay with a black and white screen. Suddenly, they were no longer okay with a keyboard that was hard that they typed on. Suddenly, they expected more, not just from Apple, but from everybody. And anybody who wasn't willing to give them more has now fallen by the wayside. So let's talk about what this means for hiring, because I think it's super important, because this cycle repeats itself in industry after industry after industry, whether it's a transition from buggies and horse-drawn carriages to cars to now electric vehicles, or in this instance with the iPhone, or even in the way that we engage with restaurants and hotels. Consumers take what they're given when the entire provider base does the same thing, until somebody or a group of people come along and do something different that gives a better experience to the consumer. And at that point, consumers stop accepting something they've accepted before. Now, what does this have to do with hiring? I hope that at this point you've kind of captured the analogy. The simple fact of the matter is that the world has changed. For a long, long time, employers felt like they were in charge. I mean, we're talking back to the Industrial Revolution times, when employees were just some cog in the wheel. They were just like a machine that entrepreneurs or businesses were using to get things done that needed to be done. And businesses really didn't care or act like they cared about people, mainly because they didn't have to. They had the power in the relationship. And as we've gone through the 80s and 90s and the internet's come along, it isn't just how people apply for jobs that's changed. It's everything. It's their access to information. It's their access to be able to read and hear about what your employees or ex-employees are saying. But one of the big things that's happened through this like whole talent shortage and talent battle that we have going on is that some employers have decided that they're going to approach the relationship differently. Most of them are tech companies or just progressive employers who've said, you know what, we're going to approach hiring like it's marketing. More specifically, we're going to put the job seeker as the focal point instead of us. We're going to listen to them and talk to them and engage them. We're going to learn about what they care about, and we're going to design a job and job ads and a process that shows them respect and caring. Now, some of you might look at that and say, oh, that's not very many employers, and we don't have time or money or whatever to do that. And you've heard me on all these videos talk about this over and over and over again about why it's so important. But But what I haven't done is what I wanted to do today, which is to say we're soon reaching a tipping point. And that tipping point is when job seekers as a consumer of jobs and application processes and employment opportunities are going to say no more. We are no longer willing to put up with being treated like we're not important, like we're not in control of the relationship. Because if there really is a talent shortage and you're really having a hard time getting qualified applicants, then you clearly are no longer in charge of the relationship. And every day that you continue to act like that, you do so at your detriment. You do so at the detriment of finding great people, finding qualified talent, having people actually show up to interviews, having them accept your offers, and to be honest, having them stick around afterwards. If you don't shift and change your focal point to where you actually show consideration and empathy to the job seeker and to the employee, pretty soon you're going to be Nokia. You're going to be left behind by the voting of the masses who will say no more. We will no longer put up with being treated like we're not important in the hiring process, like our voice and our what we care about, that they don't matter, that our fears and frustrations go unnoticed and unsolved or even unrecognized. We are reaching the tipping point. It's time for you as an employer to make a change, to take this serious. I'm not saying to give job seekers everything they want, but to be honest, you're so far out here focused on ourselves and what's easy for us that it actually doesn't take that much to move into the middle, to find balance between what's good for the company in HR and what's good for the job seeker. Heck, just start by talking to them and finding out what they care about. But like I said, we're reaching the tipping point. At some point in the near future, you will no longer be able to run your hiring process the way you run it today. You'll no longer be able to act like you're what matters most. So, sorry for the glum outlook, but the benefit of it is that when you actually make that shift, you will see massive, massive increases in qualified applicants to your jobs. And the sooner you make the shift, you will leave your competitors behind. You'll be Apple, not Nokia. You'll be the early adopter or the early mover that says, no, we do care about job seekers. So there is massive reward in taking that making that change or taking the jump into the future. You just have to be willing to start down that path. So I told you if you stuck around, I'd tell you about this really cool guide that we have. It's a step-by-step guide to maximizing the applicants you get from the job boards. And to be honest, part of it really has to do with the same thing we're talking about, reducing friction, allowing job seekers to stay on the job board and use their job board profile to apply, writing better ads that engage the job seeker and tell them what's in it for them. All of these things will maximize the applicants you get from the job boards without spending any additional money, and it's a totally free download. Just download from the link below or in the email that you received and go and implement our quick and easy strategies, and you'll see instant results. I'm so excited for you to experience the difference of what it's like to design a process and engage the hiring process by showing job seekers some empathy and respect and evolving your process. And I'm super excited for you to see the results and how beneficial they'll be to you and your organization. Hope that this video finds you well, and until next time, good luck hiring.